turn to Jim Obergefell, who is the lead plaintiff in the Obergefell and Hodges Supreme Court case. I'd like to read your whole story, but I hope you will tell it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here. Last year, the United States Supreme Court declared in no uncertain terms that my marriage and countless others matter. For millions of LGBTQ people and thousands of loving, committed same-sex couples, that decision meant that, for the first time, our relationships were truly equal in the eyes of the law, in all 50 states. When my late husband John and I set out on this journey, we weren't thinking about the future, just our love for each other. But Ohio's refusal to acknowledge that ended up giving me a voice I had never had before and a level of recognition I never sought. And I won't trade it for anything. Now, I get to keep telling our love story and talking about this incredible moment in our country's history. And I get to keep fighting for us, and for a country that has come to honor and respect my marriage as much as my husband and I, and our family and friends, did. Achieving marriage equality was deeply meaningful to me personally, and to millions of people and families everywhere. But it isn't, and never was, the end of the fight for LGBTQ rights. Today, we're at a crossroads, and we need to keep our country moving forward. Across the nation, people can still be fired because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. Our transgender brothers and sisters are being murdered simply for trying to live their lives. Trans women of color are experiencing a particular crisis. Up to 40% of homeless youth are LGBTQ, and LGBTQ kids are still at increased risk of being bullied or subjected to so-called conversion therapy. Our marriages have been affirmed, but our community still has a lot of work ahead of us before we reach true equality. Some Americans believe discriminating against a gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender person is now illegal. But it isn't. Not only is it still permissible in many places, it's routine, even encouraged. And it's distressing to see how often people simply want somebody to denigrate or blame. Though marriage equality is the law of the land, too many Americans continue refusing to accept it. From small-town clerks to presidential candidates, it scares me to think about Republicans in power, taking away the constitutional rights we fought so hard for, let alone what will happen to those rights we're still working toward. This election is going to be deeply consequential for so many people for so many reasons. Make no mistake, LGBTQ civil rights are on the ballot this year. We need leaders who will vote to pass the Federal Equality Act, ensuring that hateful politicians hiding behind words like tradition can't roll back the gains we've made, and that future generations can grow up free of discrimination, segregation, and exclusion simply because of who they are. And we need leaders in the executive branch who will enforce the law rather than permit bigotry. There's simply no excuse to do otherwise. In the last months of my husband's life, we chose to use our remaining time together to fight for our family and for millions like us. I don't regret that choice, and I know John didn't either. We knew this fight was one that needed fighting, and I'm still here fighting in his memory so that other families and LGBTQ people now and in the future don't have to clear the hurdles and face the same hardships that we did. We all deserve more and better. No American civil rights should be rescinded simply by virtue of crossing state lines, and the value of human life should not change with the landscape. Strangers do not get to decide the worth of our relationships, the strength of our bonds, or the dignity of our lives. No American should suffer because they exercise their constitutional right to marry, because of whom they love, or because of who they are. Every one of us deserves the freedom to live our lives, period. That's what John believed, and what I continue to work toward. I did what I did for love, and I'm still fighting for all the people who want to be able to love freely and openly, and to be themselves without fear. John lives on through me and through this fight. Thank you.
Bonnie Schaefer, I think you had a question?
I'm sitting in the wrong seat.
Oh.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I am a gay woman. I am married to my wife. I live in Florida, that's my primary residence, and half the year I live in North Carolina. So, you know, I'm in the Bible Belt. You're aware of HB2, which targets the transgenders, and all throughout the South, gays, lesbians, transgenders are being discriminated against. So, I mean, we've always been second-class citizens. We finally got rights, and now they're being rescinded, and it's wrong. And what can I do to help you and me? You know, I had my niece last year, last July, was killed in a car crash, and she was 13. And she had just come out as a gay child. And, you know, it's amazing because she was, you know, embraced by her family and friends. And I live in a blue patch in North Carolina. However, it's still, we have a lot of work to do, and it's not fair.
I can't agree more. You know, these bills that are popping up across the country, they're driven simply by hate. And now that they feel they've lost the marriage fight, they're looking for someone else to denigrate, someone else to target. And unfortunately, the transgender community seems to be bearing the brunt of that. What can we do to fight that? What I'm doing here, what I have done for the past 2 years, speaking out, speaking up, going to Capitol Hill to lobby. For everyone else, what we need to do is talk. We need to educate. You know, statistics showed, and I might get these numbers wrong, but something like 90% of Americans know someone who identifies as gay or lesbian. There's a gay or lesbian in their circle. 16%, if I recall correctly, of Americans say they know a transgender person. I guarantee that number's higher, they just don't know it. But what we need to do as Americans, as a community, as a party, is educate that 84% of America, that 10% of America who say they don't have a transgender person in their life or a gay person in their life. They fear what they don't understand, what they don't know. Harvey Milk said, tell your story, come out, because that's how we change hearts and minds. And for me, I think of my experience over the past 2 years, John and I were willing to tell our story. We were willing to be public about that. The other plaintiffs in the Supreme Court case were willing to be public and tell their stories. And I know from personal experience that those stories touched people, the stories resonated with people, and they changed hearts and minds. So for me, the biggest thing we have to do is educate our fellow Americans that we are no different. We simply want the same things.
Thank you. Near Tandon.
Do you want to follow up quickly?
I'd like to make one more comment. How do you educate the ignorant Pat McCrory? Because I don't know what I'm sorry, and I have to say it on international, but the thing is, I don't know what he's afraid of. You know, if a transgendered man or woman walks into the bathroom of their appointed gender, you know, who knows? And who cares? What are they going to do? Check their IDs at the door?
Or worse.
Yeah, but I do believe that you know, and you're fighting, and thank you so much.
Unfortunately, I think there's some people who just aren't open to being there, people who aren't open to learning. And they refuse to, and I will put him in that camp.
And
He
some of them are up
refuses.
for election.
Yes, absolutely. So all we can do is keep making as much noise as we possibly can, and eventually, either it will sink in, and they will understand, they will learn something that they can build on and hopefully change, or they will simply go away. Unfortunately, it's a matter of time, and our kids today don't have that time. We can't wait. So I wish I had a better answer for you on that one.
Thank you so much for your testimony and for being with us today.